Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. We are rolling out our Ratepayers First proposal, and we'll start out with a statement on my behalf, and will be followed up by our assemblyman here, and open up for some questions at the end. So, again, good afternoon. Over the past few years, Wisconsin has made great strides forward in becoming a better state for employers in the manufacturing industry. At the end of last year, approximately 474,000 Wisconsin workers were employed in manufacturing jobs. Lower taxes and less regulation have helped spark job growth, but our state's manufacturers still face challenges. This is particularly true with respect to the cost of energy, which impacts industrial, commercial, and residential ratepayers across our state. Today, we put ratepayers first. Wisconsin's electricity rates are among the highest in the Midwest. In 2016, Southeast Wisconsin's average industrial electric rate was 8.36 cents per kilowatt hour. By comparison, the Midwest average last year was 6.31 cents per kilowatt hour. That difference with Southeast Wisconsin's rates being 32.5% higher than the Midwest average comes at a steep cost to the manufacturers who use a significant amount of electrical energy. Residential ratepayers also pay the price of high electric energy costs. The average residential payer in Southeast Wisconsin paid 14.64 cents per kilowatt hour last year, a rate of 21.4% higher than the Midwest average residential electric rate. Our state's high electric rates make us less competitive when manufacturing companies locate here or look to expand operations, or when manufacturers in other states look to build their next plant and hire more workers. Charter Steel, a large employer in Saukville and a huge consumer of electricity, chose, according to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, to invest $150 million in a new plant in Ohio. Ohio has lower industrial electric rates than Southeast Wisconsin. In 2001, the legislature exempted a certain class of electric power generation contracts from regular Public Service Commission oversight. The Public Service Commission plays a vital role in overseeing Wisconsin utilities and ensuring that the rates they employ balance the needs of investors with the needs of ratepayers. Exempting an entire class of power generation contracts from PSC oversight not only undermines the important role played by the Commission, but also creates an imbalanced regulatory field that tilts in favor of politically preferred interests. The Power of the Future contracts, as these exempted contracts are called, contain an unheard of 12.7% rate of return for We Energies and its parent company. Right now, the authorized return on equity granted by the PSC to We Energies is 10.2% for the rest of their portfolio. The Commission's authorized return on equity directly impacts the electric rates charged by the utility. At the time the Power of the Future was enacted by the legislature and then approved by the PSC, again in the early 2000s, thoughtful observers questioned the unreasonably high return on equity and the wisdom of prohibiting the PSC from ever factoring these contracts into future regulatory cases. These contracts will last between 25 and 30 years. It does not make sense to prohibit the PSC from ever considering them as part of future rate cases. The bill that my colleagues and I are unveiling today will restore the Public Service Commission's authority to look at all contracts entered into by utilities. It will end the regulatory favoritism that exists in the current system. No utility should be able to shield a portion of its operations from the oversight of the PSC. The PSC must be free to protect and promote the public interests, as is its mission. By returning to an even regulatory playing field, Wisconsin will be better positioned to compete with the electric rates of nearby states and Wisconsin ratepayers, particularly those in southeast Wisconsin, will benefit from the robust oversight provided by the Public Service Commission. Next speaker will be Jim Ott.
Thanks, Dewey. Good afternoon. I think Senator Stroebel has given you a very good overview of what the purpose of this bill is and what we're trying to accomplish with it. And I guess all that I would add to his comments, he gave you the numbers, specific figures, and the differences between Wisconsin and some of the surrounding states. I would just add that we're not really requiring the Public Service Commission to reach any particular decision in any rate case. We're simply giving them the ability to do their job. And this legislation that was passed back in 2001 clearly has outlived its usefulness. The Public Service Commission certainly have members that are very qualified to make reasonable decisions in rate cases, and they will be making the decisions. All we're doing is giving them that opportunity back in all the cases. The other thing I would say is that for the media to get some specific figures, to interview some of the manufacturers who are hit by these higher rates, get specific figures of what the difference is between the electric rates that they pay and the impact that that has on their bottom line and their ability to really effectively operate in Wisconsin. So I would encourage you certainly to do that as well. And I guess my final comment would be that today, of course, we're introducing legislation. In order for that legislation to move forward, it's going to have to be assigned to committees in both houses. The bill will be fully vetted. The committees in both houses will have to then approve the bill, and then, of course, it'll have to be passed by both houses of the legislature, and then before it even gets to the governor's desk. So with that, I'll turn it over to Representative Neylon.
Thank you, Representative Ott. Wisconsin's high energy rates are hurting Wisconsin families and stifling economic development. Companies factor in energy rates when computing their cost of doing business in Wisconsin. Based on the national average and compared to their counterparts in other states, residential ratepayers are paying 12% higher, commercial users are paying 5% higher, and industrial customers are paying more than 16% higher. The PSC is the regulator of our state's energy providers, and currently, because of state statute, there are contracts that they are unable to review. I believe that's wrong. All other utility rate cases are up for review every 10 years by the PSC. If Power of the Future is such a good deal for Wisconsin, why not allow the PSC to review it regularly like all other contracts? Ending the exemption restores protections for ratepayers and puts all utilities on the same level playing field. I've heard time and time again from companies in my district about high utility rates. Other companies with manufacturing facilities in other states show me how much they would save if they simply switched all their operations to these other manufacturing facilities, opposed to keeping jobs here in Wisconsin. We think it's in the best interest to put ratepayers first so we can grow our economy and save folks money. With that, we will open it up to questions. Thank you.
How much money are we talking about if Wisconsin were to go more in line with other Midwest states? How much money would that leave in the hands of ratepayers?
Well, I think when you look at these charts here, you can see how we compare with our other ratepayers, and we can provide you that data. We do have that, but I think these charts are very, very illustrative of how Wisconsin stacks up with those other states.
And are there any legal issues if you do put this into law? Would We Energies be able to say that, you know, at the time that this was approved, this was the deal that the state granted, and that you can't renege on a contract that had already been put in place?
I mean, again, all this bill does is allows the PSC to review these contracts. They're professionals, they deal in this arena all the time. I'm quite confident that they will address this matter in the appropriate legal manner.
This is a little related, but a little off topic. But the Senate Majority Leader has talked about looking at a utility tax reduction in the budget. Just curious what you're hearing on that. What's the latest on that as being something that is going to come up in the legislative debate?
I really haven't heard a lot of discussion on that, and quite frankly, what we're doing here is totally independent of any of that, what it would be, yes.
The issue of how much ratepayers are paying and how much it costs to pay for utilities. That's all I was just.
Sure, sure.
If I could just add to Mr. Marley's question, this provision that's in state law right now was put in there by the legislature. Well, it can be taken away by the legislature as well, and we're the place that would happen.
So it wouldn't be like a contract issue that they could maintain that it was, because obviously you can't usually renegotiate a contract after the fact unless both sides are willing. But you'd say this isn't part of the contract itself because it was just an act of
The legislation, right.
Right. Okay.
Have you spoken with leadership in either house? Where do they stand on this, or the governor's office?
We've given a heads up to Senator Fitzgerald, and again, this is the first day we're coming out with this bill. We're seeking co-sponsors, and it will go through the process just like any other bill.
So you haven't had discussions with the governor's office, and Adam, have you spoken with the speaker's office?
Yes, I have spoken with the Speaker's office briefly on this issue. It was more of a informational conversation in terms of this is our plans to unveil this specific piece of legislation. The Speaker's office agrees that we should be putting ratepayers first, but he has not commented on the specifics of the proposal at this point.
And we also have had some discussions in general with the governor.
Is he open to it?
Seems like it's something that he'd like to take a look at.
What committees do you want this to go to?
I'm hoping that it'll go to Senator Cole's committee.
And in the Assembly, we're hoping it'll go through Energy and Utilities, Representative Kuglich's committee.
And what, you talked a lot about the manufacturers, what would the effects of a bill like this be on a homeowner or somebody who's not in industry?
Well, I think in my discussion, I gave some statistics on a homeowner. And right now, the fact is that the average residential ratepayer in southeast Wisconsin paid 14.64 cents per kilowatt hour last year. And that rate is 21.4% higher than the Midwest average residential rate. So I guess you can do the math.
We believe ratepayers will pay less.
If this bill passed, when would be the soonest that the PSC would be able to review those contracts?
I believe it would be within a year that they would need to revisit that the way the legislation is written.
Have you heard anything from We Energies on this at this point?
No.
From We Energies?
Yeah, I just wondered what.
Yeah, we've spoken with We Energies. Obviously, they have a lot of skin in the game regarding this legislation, so I'm not going to speak for them other than saying that we have had brief conversations and plan to have more.
Okay, I appreciate everyone being here. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.